Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
As is our custom, we'll go around and say our names, and I'd like to suggest that we try to do this mindfully and slowly. And one way of doing this is to take a breath, inhalation and an exhalation, before saying your own name. I'm Ray Dyer.
I'm Bill Childs.
My name is Ari Simon.
I'm Mark Tiller.
Rick Eisenstein.
George Hubbard.
Sujay.
John Wessner. Richard Lee.
Dean Melby.
Francisco Gonzalez.
Justin Hecht.
Sean Ward.
Mark McCullough.
Boy Martin.
Paul Albert.
Richard Hedman.
Jack Fuzzy.
Richard Azzolini. Dave Ellison. Roy King.
Bob Cott.
Rob Hager.
Patrick Letellier.
Steve Carson.
David Axel.
Jason Castle. Cliff Seibert. David Margolis.
Peter Washburn.
Rick Rowland.
Jerry Jones.
I'm Tom Braun.
I'm Max Hall.
I'm Howard DePort.
I'm Michael Schuler.
Jeff Stewart.
Kay Matsuda.
Marvin Snow.
Michael Murphy. Ron Albuquerque.
Andre Mayorana.
David Lewis.
Cliff Carter.
Is anyone here for their first or second time today? I'd like to remind the old-timers to make a point of welcoming newcomers during the social hour. Today our speaker is David Carr, and David has been sitting with and organizing retreats for the Northern California Circle of Insight Meditation Teachers for more than 20 years. Since 1986, he has coordinated Jack Kornfield and Stan Grof's Insight and Opening retreats, which integrate the depth of practice and ancient wisdom of Buddhism with contemporary experimental psychological perspectives. Since 1993, he's trained in the Diamond Approach, an original path for self-realization which complements many ancient spiritual traditions, including the Buddhist understanding of the nature of mind, while building on the maps of modern depth psychology. So I'll turn the meeting over to David.
It's nice to see some dear friends and some surprising people showing up here. And I was really touched that we had the time to say our names as was a chance for me to make contact. Can you guys hear me? Everybody's fine? Okay. That little blurb was Jimmy's requirement to keep it to 3 sentences. They're very run-on sentences. I'm an editor. I don't approve. And it pretty much says it all. I was invited, I thought, to talk about the Diamond Approach. And that one sentence, I was actually during the meditation trying to keep to a meditation, but 2 things came up. One was trying to get the Diamond Approach out in 1 sentence, which I will come back to. And the other was the talk I really wish I thought to give. And I didn't have time in the half hour to really move into it, but it would have addressed our particular structures as gay men coming into spiritual practice. I'm very touched to be here. It's a beautiful space to see it filled. With dear friends whom I have unpacked a lot of my heart and soul with. And to others whom I've created space for the unpacking of their own process and deepening. People periodically ask me, I think Jimmy was the last one to ask me to describe the Diamond Approach in 1 sentence. So we'll take another gander at it. It always comes up spontaneously. I want to say one thing. It's been a very intense day, and grace has befallen 2.5 times already. So we'll see if we come through this unscathed. When my career was threatened, grace had it that the printer hadn't yet gotten to print out what I needed to stop. The second was a parking space right on the corner in San Francisco, which seems like a miracle. And the third was finding this. The half was finding this group. So we'll see what I can offer this group. The distinctive understanding of the Diamond Approach that certainly isn't part of traditional spiritual approaches, is the understanding that the ego arises of necessity to function in our bodies, and it also is the ground for which our spiritual reconnection happens. I'm very touched to say that. It's really reverberating in me because we spend so much of our time sitting on the mat, listening to our minds pissed off about it, wanting to be left alone, wanting to go off to monasteries, to our retreats. And the example of my career being threatened this morning, I was able to sit with the reactivity and the terror I was experiencing, and to see what was coming up was a reaction to my mother trying to convey something to me that I wasn't able to understand when I was probably 2. And that open curiosity to what's going on in my experience and how it is physically, how my body's reacting, because I thought, I'm never going to be able to give a talk. I was just really bound up. I was terrified to get on the freeway to come here in that condition. being able to stay with the physical experience, which is a product of years of meditation practice, which is, excuse me, one of the fundamental practices we do in the Diamond Approach. And the second was the curiosity to why is this affecting me this way? And part of my body reaction was the terror of being thrown out of my mother's holding. And here I was being thrown out of my Sangha, in a sense, was the threat. So, nice to have a personal example to bring up of how we work. Can I have a clock ring?
11:45.
So what I want to do is a brief but thorough description of what might be of interest about the Diamond Approach, and then open the floor up to questions, and if there's still time, I may do a little talk from what comes out of the questions. So the first question is, what is the Diamond Approach? And it's a spiritual path that allows us to know that we arise out of our fundamental spiritual nature, and it allows us in this body to manifest the qualities and the wisdom of our fundamental nature in everything we do. To be in the world as a spiritual being with the awareness that we are here simply being what is our expression of the fundamental ground. Are you taking notes to get at me later? Okay, he's going to report me to the police.
I'm appreciating you, David.
Thank you, David. I get to see David once every 2 weeks in passing, which touches my heart. So there are a few names that you may hear associated with the Diamond Approach. One is Ridwan, R-I-D-H-W-A-N, and that is the incorporated church. That's the foundation that does the teaching, provides the teaching, and some public events as well. And Diamond Heart, which is probably the way it's mostly known, which is the specific body of teaching of the map. And the word heart, let me go back. I'm going to come to the sentence again. I would like you to turn your brain off, because this is a lot of words, and to listen with your heart and your dantian, to just let what I'm saying come through that way. The heart of the Diamond Heart is that we go into, or we get drawn to, our spiritual opening because of the deepest longing of our heart to be at home and to meet our true beloved. And the word diamond in this context is a way of talking about the precision of understanding that's possible. And again, it's an understanding experientially. The map is incredibly complex, finely articulated, and irrelevant on some level. It's a way, it's a tool. I'm thinking about what it's like to sit in classes, as we meet generally one weekend a month for classes, and we hear a lot of words, but the words are really dropping the pebble into the pond, and the reverberations in the water are where the impact takes place. It's what opens the consciousness. The source of the teaching comes out of the personal inquiry into his experience of a man named Hamid Ali, who writes under the name A.H. Almas. He's got a lot of books out. Most of them are insanely dense. They've made me insane trying to penetrate their density. But the important point is that the entire map he has developed has come out of really paying attention to his inner experience and to follow the experience in the body and to track what that brings up in memory, to be curious about why, as I was talking about my experience, why there is reactivity, what's the story, why am I not in this moment the full space of an open mind, which is our true nature. And his incredible curiosity without goal, open-ended inquiry, open-ended curiosity. What's the experience? What do I know about this? What does it connect to? And he also is a brilliant intellectual who has read in many, many spiritual traditions, drawn on their understanding. It's helped him hone his own understanding of his experience. And in certain techniques, he's drawn on other traditions for being able to convey the body of his teaching. So, as I said, meditation is used fundamentally for mindfulness and concentration. There are specific other meditations taken from Sufi and Gurdjieff's traditions that activate certain parts of our process. Hamid was associated with the Gurdjieff group for a while. I think his own opening began through work with the Eureka Institute, starting about 1970 in Berkeley. He's from Kuwait originally and came here to get a PhD in physics and realized early on that physics at that time didn't have the explanation for what it's all about. And went off in his own path to try to understand. So the understanding that I find particular to the Diamond approach that I don't see elsewhere in my explorations, is the integration of the spiritual understanding and contemporary psychological understanding, and holding the two as a continuum and not separate. So the work with the activity of the ego is one tool for opening into our deeper nature. And the other strong characteristic of this path is the articulation of many true qualities that our true nature, our fundamental spiritual nature, has inherent, and that those qualities inform the development of the ego, and the ego, in a sense, also blocks our experience of those qualities. So, I don't know how many qualities there are on the list, somewhere between 60 and 80. I've never sat down to count, and Hamid continues his own inquiry, and the number keeps increasing. Qualities such as compassion, personal love, existence, acceptance, curiosity, perseverance, strength, and he has also been able to discern how very specific ego structures block each of those qualities. So much of the teaching that takes place in our classes is a presentation on a particular quality, and then to look at how a typical ego blocks access to it. We do some inquiry into our own personal experience around that. And as we can truly be without judgment and with curiosity, our particular ego experience, as it comes into consciousness, it ceases to function as an ego experience, and it begins to just dissolve. And when it dissolves, that quality that's been blocking begins to be available to us to express its fullness of compassion and personal love and curiosity. So approaching this, I've been jumping around. That was more of the technique of how we work with in this approach. But the understanding beneath it is that we come into this embodiment out of our spiritual nature, as our spiritual nature, and in order to develop functionality in this body, we have to learn to use it, and we are taught by people who aren't necessarily aware of their spiritual nature, and certainly not totally functional as their spiritual nature. And we learn patterns of how to be in the world from this incomplete model. And we are pulled to externalize our orientation, to no longer keep our awareness in our inner experience. So much of the work is turning back into what is my experience right now. So briefly, the method of the work is using meditation practices, doing this open-ended inquiry that calls to body experience, calls to memory, calls to the emotional field. And following the thread as it unfolds into whatever direction it goes. The ultimate place it goes is a mystery. And that's why the inquiry needs to be open-ended. We don't know how we are going to unfold our process, unpack our process, and we don't know what we're going to find. So starting with whatever is here right now, just paying very close attention. I'll say something about the settings that the work takes place in. One is in a classroom, ongoing classes. There are occasional weekends open to the public. There are occasional talks that Hamid does when his books are first published. He's been out at Spirit Rock. Just to say, Jack has been doing one-on-one work. Jack Kornfield has been doing one-on-one work with Hamid for 25 years or so, which to me is about as high a recommendation as any human being can get. I have tremendous respect for Jack. I heard an interview on KQED about 7 or 8 years ago. Tony Schwartz, who had written a book called, anybody remember? What Really Matters? Finding Our Spiritual Nature in America. I can't remember quite the subtitle. He had gone around and studied briefly with a lot of different teachers who were on the circuit at that time. And when I heard him on KQED after his book was published, he said that Jack and Hamid were the two truest teachers he had met in his research. I told Jack I had heard that. He said, "Oh yeah, wasn't that sweet?" Very Jack. So we also do the exploration in one-on-one sessions with teachers who are teaching us to open our process. They're not necessarily classroom teachers, but so the one-on-one work, as Jack does with Hamid, and there's an opportunity if anybody's interested. Those of us in the teacher training, as I am, are offering low-fee sessions in order for us to have people to practice with, and also it's an opportunity for people to get a flavor for what the one-on-one work is like and to be able to explore some of the conceptual material. So I put some flyers out. The sort of apricot-colored ones are information about the one-on-one sessions, the practice sessions for low fee. And my phone number's at the bottom because I'm the contact for that. So if anybody has any questions about anything, I'm happy to talk endlessly. Which I'm trying to draw to a close at the moment. And there are also some lavender flyers there about a new training that has just started and will be open for about a year. That will be 6 weekends a year, which is more an introduction to the mat. So I think what I want to do, we've got about less than 15 minutes. Find somebody, one person, and each of you take about 4 or 5 minutes to inquire into what your experience is right now, whatever it is. So I'll do a quick demonstration. I'm aware of my feet with my heels on the zabuton, my fingers touching. I'm aware of my voice reverberating through the central part of a space that I don't sense a boundary to. I'm aware of the openness of my gesture, and now I'm aware that people are paying attention to me. Slows me down. So that kind of just what's here, I'm aware of, is a good beginning for any sentence. So one person will face the other, do it for about 4 or 5 minutes. I'll ring the bell and then we'll switch.
Touching myself. My mind is like a scrutiny, so that scrutinizing like everything is immediate. Feeling really when is I'm aware of chronic pain, I guess. Comes to pain in the Oh yeah.
so long that I take myself there, regardless of what the external facts are. Aware of my relaxation.
God, that group gets unruly. I'm glad there was some energy left after I stopped talking. I want to honor the fact that it's 11:45, and I will stick around and ask questions. I'm going to answer questions outside.
We might have time for one or two.
Okay, questions or just comments about. I'm curious how people feel.
I used to work with Erika myself, and I'm curious to know how Hamid Ali differs from Oscar Picasso and his views.
I'm Mr. Rika, so I can't answer the question. Yeah.
I have something. When we did this experience, I felt that as soon as we kind of said, what we felt and where we were, we named it. And once I named it, I kind of filed it away and didn't really experience it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just my...
Like bubbles in a stream, right? Like rainbows. What's the beautiful? Does anybody know the beautiful phrase? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know the one you're referring to, but I can't quote it.
Anyway, one of the Buddhist writings, sutras. Experience. What comes into awareness comes and is gone.
Mm.
And we don't know what's coming next. That's why it's important to stay open. How was it for you? You sound... Was it
for me?
Yeah. How was it? How was that for you to have experience?
Well, it's not about it going. I guess it is about it going in a way, but I felt that experiencing it gave me a way to kind of look at it and see it from all different angles. But once I named it and gave it a reference, then that kind of stopped the experience for me.
And what came after that?
The next feeling or whatever it might be. And I kind of felt like I maybe wasn't ready to stop experiencing the feeling of that thing that I had just named. So kind of cut it short.
You're saying that the naming itself?
Yeah, the naming of it itself kind of filed it away into a place.
Something to pay attention to. Maybe you were done. Maybe you're running after it. So curious to keep looking at that process for you. Have a question?
Well, no, I just had a comment.
Yeah.
Not so much about the exercise, but just of your talk, the one line that moved me the most was just in the very beginning when you were describing the spiritual search, the search for the beloved. And that just so completely resonated in me, and it so kind of defined my life, and the ache I carry inside. That it was just a very powerful moment to hear you say that.
Yeah, I could have read Rumi for 45 minutes also. Yeah.
I guess my experience was I guess just that experience. It seems like what you were describing as you kind of got into it a little more deeply seemed very intricate, and some of the things, it seemed very dense. And then even as I was speaking with him, I noticed that what I was trying to describe in my own experience could be very dense. But that became less relevant as time passed, and I sensed this kind of deeper connection with the person, more when he actually started speaking that to me. It was almost this experience of a reflection, and that to me seemed what was maybe you were referring to as the essential nature of this very kind of feeling of ease, and something more significant, maybe not more significant, but more sustained than this kind of peppering of experiences that I was describing from moment to moment. This kind of, I don't know, that's kind of how it...
I think if we had more than 5 minutes to actually do that, I think that is typically what happens when we move into the sense of the openness of mind the field in which all of those experiences are arising rather than into the arisings themselves. Is there a question?
Well, following up on Clint's comment about, you had mentioned that the Diamond Heart Path is about returning home. And I wonder if you could talk about what returning home is.
Oh, I'm going to ask you to tell me what your home feels like.
Oh, that's not fair. I'll answer that if I get the honorarium.
Hey, it would have covered a parking ticket. Welcome to it. I was just asking, responding that way to demonstrate that that's what would be happening in an open inquiry. Yeah. Because we do have an inkling of the quality and the inner feeling and the sense of spaciousness and density and substantiality of what home is. And when we begin to allow ourselves to acknowledge that, the whole body responds, it relaxes, it becomes more full, it becomes more open. So it's a wonderful inquiry for you to do on your own.
So David, you'll be available for questions?
Yeah, and I'm really honored to have been with this group. I hope it was beautiful for those listening as it was for me sitting, in spite of the density.
Do we have a host today?
Yes, I'm Kay, and I'm the host this morning, and I'd like to welcome all of you to GBF and also encourage you to stay for half hour social we have. We'll have refreshment, and also you can enjoy the tea, and if you do, please wash and return your cup to the shelf over the sink. And outside you will also see a Dana Ball where we encourage people to put their financial contribution to the organization. This suggested donation amount is $5 to $8, but any amount less or more will be acceptable and welcome and appreciated. There's also a sign-up sheet, so if you'd like to stay in touch with this organization, especially if you're new or here for the first time, please leave your street address as well as email address so that we can stay in touch. And finally, there usually is a group of people who go out and have lunch together, and the group usually forms around 12:30 outside of the door. But if you can't find the group, please let me know. I'll try to get you connected with the people who are going out. Thanks.
Cool.
Yeah, just want to repeat the announcement I made last week. I don't know the exact date, I'm sorry, but the second Saturday of April, we're going to do the annual hike to Chimney Rock for the wildflowers. That's way over Point Reyes by the Point Reyes Lighthouse. And it's beautiful. It's an all-day thing, so be prepared to spend the entire Saturday. But I'll have flyers up when it gets closer. And there's an announcement also in the newsletter. But it's an annual thing we've been doing quite a few years. And sometimes it's glorious, and sometimes it's cold and damp. Sometimes they both. And just one other announcement. If we're able to pull it off, we're going to have 2 Larkin Street dinners a month instead of just one. That's where we get together. Larkin Street Youth Center is a center for runaways or young people, teenagers on the street. It gives them a place to stay and feed them. And we have been doing 1 meal a month there. And I think we're going to be able to, Bill Weber's going to be the other Saturday. We're going to have 2 meals a month. And it's a lot of fun. And I think people participating have gotten good things out of it. So there's a sign-up sheet. We're going to double the need for volunteers, so that's why I'm hoping that people might be interested. There's a sign-up sheet out on the table there.
The date for that hike is on the 14th.
Good, thank you.
Hi, my name's Dean. Last week, instead of a speaker, we actually broke into small groups and we talked about what we're enjoying about the life of the Sangha and what we'd like to see more of, and had some great discussions. As part of that process, we actually had questionnaires, and I'll go around after this outside and just offer them to anybody who didn't have a chance to fill one in last week, and they're broken into the spiritual life, the social life, and the outreach work that we do. And it's very important if you want to take the opportunity to give us the feedback. What I'll do is collate them in a couple more weeks and make that publicly available, summary of the themes that came out, and I'll also make sure that the different heads of the functions and the committees that operate here and make life so successful get those, so that there's a real chance for everybody to have their feedback heard.
As a follow-up to that, this is a volunteer organization. We are looking for people who would like to help in various ways. There are a number of sign-up sheets on this large coffee table out here with different headings like the newsletter, the prison outreach, the Larkin Street dinners. If you're interested at all, put your name and contact number, email, something on there, and let people know that you're willing to be available to help. Also, there's a Gay Buddhist Fellowship directory, which I'm updating, and it's over near the Donna Bowl. If your name is on it, please check. If your name is on it, see that the information's correct. If it's not correct, make a correction clearly and legibly. And if you're not on the directory and would like to be, sign up on the pink sheet, which is right next to the directory. Any other? Yeah.
The steering committee is going to meet today at 12:30 in this room.
Great.
George?
Yes, a reminder that our talks are available on the internet at the GBF website, gaybuddhist.org.
We do potlucks occasionally. If anybody would like to open their home to a potluck, catch me.
Did somebody talk to you this morning?
No.
Paul, are we? Should we leave chairs up?
If you're going to need 6 or 7 or 8 chairs.
You will need some, so we should leave that.
Just a few.
Ray.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm real excited to do this, but it's my GBF is my sangha, it's my spiritual home. I'm really delighted to introduce my beloved Richard P. from Taiwan to share this space with me and with us. And if you would welcome him, I'd welcome that.
Thank you. Jim?
Yeah, next week, Tom Moon, who's a member of this community and a longtime San Francisco psychotherapist, will be speaking again. He's a very genial and warm and wise man. And he's going to be exploring the theme of reincarnation from his experience and his thoughts on it. So it should be fascinating.
Any other announcements?
Right. Yes, I'm here. If you could stand another announcement, we have a newsletter to mail out today, which we do every other month for about 350 this time. So we need at least 8 people to help with all the collating and stamping stuff. And could I see hands? People who can do that? That's not 8. Thank you. A special bonus feature is a bowl of Hershey's Kisses. No fingerprints on the newsletter.
Any other announcements before we close? Okay. We can all stand in a circle.
By the power and truth of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all never be separated from the sacred happiness which is without sorrow. And may all live in equanimity, without too much attachment or too much aversion, and live believing in the equality of all that lives.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.